Movies are quite the interesting format to tell a story. Unlike books, games, and shows, movies are only 1 to 2 hours long. It's by far one of the most popular ways to tell a story, and since there are a lot of movies, there's also a lot of movie villains. So today, I'd like to rapid fire through some movie villains and put them on a tier list. Before that, some things to note. One, when the title says random, it means random. There's going to be a lot of weird picks here. We're going to be seeing a lot of C's to F's today. Two, if you can guess, I'm definitely not a film guy. I definitely like a good movie, but when it comes to movies to say games, I'm picking games. So please be light. And three, even if there will be a lot of mediocre villains, no, I'm not trying to bash any filmmaker. This is my personal opinion. Even if I dislike a villain or a movie, I'm not trying to insult any actor or filmmaker. With that said, we've got 23 separate villain strengths, so let's just start. We're starting off pretty bad. Tell me, do you remember this character or this character's name? No? Well, you probably know Both's actor, Tony Hale. Honestly, his acting's kind of the only thing saving these two because there's nothing to these two. The one to the right is the big bad of the 2021 Clifford movie, and he's just Eggman, without anything that makes Eggman enjoyable. And the other one is James Suggs, who's the villain of the fourth Alpha movie, who I hate more. At least Ian and Zoe try to be something. James exists purely to make adult jokes. Both these two are awful, trash, forgettable, and easy Fs. Another villain who's just Eggman without realizing what made Eggman enjoyable. Have you ever seen the Adam Project? Well, don't, it sucks. Another easy after. It's a bit of a shame since the time travel can make for a great plot, but anyway. I told you, there's going to be a lot of random picks. Like, with all these other movies, G-Force is a movie I do not enjoy, and its villain does not help. I don't think Speckles on paper is bad. An animal villain based on the causes of deforestation and such sounds really compelling, and I really feel for his backstory of losing his dad, but this is a 2000s live action kids movie with a dance off at the end. Do you think there's subtlety? All Speckles is, look guys, the mole is the mole, coupled with a cruddy redemption arc. The rat, I forgot his name's like, don't be evil, goes to jail and is like, I'm not evil. D tier because at least his backstory is good and I like his voice. I saw the Happy Birdie movie on YouTube, but the movie can be funny, and I think that extends with the villain. I love Bill Hader's performance, and he's got some funny moments. However, he's not really memorable like the movie itself. I give him C tier. Like with King Pig, Malgosha has some funny moments, but it's just really unmemorable. A lot of people would probably give her F, considering she shouldn't have been the villain, but for me, she's D. None of you have probably ever seen the Sid the Science Kid movie or knew a Sid the Science Kid movie existed, but I do, and its villain sucks. Bobby Bot is the epitome of Who Invited Bro. He tells the least funniest jokes, and it's unthreatening, and I have no qualms giving him F tier. None of you will attack me because none of you have probably even seen the movie. Okay, now we're ranking all the Trolls villains. Chef. Do you really think a character named Chef is interesting or good? To be fair, she's fairly friendly and she's voiced by Leonard's mom from The Big Bang Theory, but D tier on the list. Barb. Like Chef, but worse, since they give her a cruddy redemption at the end and she does the, hey, you and I aren't so different thing I hate. Like, yes, the hero and villain have opposing goals that reflect the themes of the story. That's what a good villain does. No need to spell it out like we're five. F tier. Finally, Velvet and Veneer. They're okay. Certainly not the most complex or interesting, but they work. They can be funny, and I like that they're literally the Graves, but kids bopified. Still, I doubt I'll remember them after a day, so C tier. I know that this is weird, we're doing a side villain before the big bad, but don't pretend like this is the first time. Burger Beard is a fairly funny villain. His actor carries his performance. I also like the final battle with him and Spongebob and his friends. Has a lot of plot holes. How do they know what he know what a Krabby Patty was? C tier. Oh my god, finally, a decent villain! I can't believe we have a character who conflicts with the hero and is entertaining and friendly. Why couldn't any of the 11 entries do that? Miss Power is the epitome of a bully. She mocks and belittles for one purpose, to make herself look better as the most superior villain, because to her, she is. But if that wasn't heinous enough, she turns other characters like Word Girl and manipulates them into using her tactics for her goals of universal domination. That scene in the third act where after Word Girl realizes her true nature and Miss Power beats her senselessly, peak. My only real issue with Miss Power is how she's defeated. I mean, on the one hand, it's nice how Word Girl defeats her with her biggest strength, but it doesn't feel like Miss Power got defeated. I get that this is a show for kids and they don't want to encourage violence, but even then, it doesn't even feel like Miss Power is gone. Like, what if, and I know I make everything about this, but hear me out. What if they took her page from Danganronpa and we see Miss Power bullying the other villains like Junko does to the survivors, only for Word Girl to swoop in and be like, you guys cool, and they team up to be her. Well, at any rate, Miss Power is still a compelling A-tier worthy. Now, back to mediocrity. My thoughts on these two are the same. Both are extremely memorable and aren't insufferable. D tier. Okay, you know how I said we'd cover 23 villains? Well, I lied. I don't expect any of you to forgive me, and I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment. Okay, but the real reason is that I wanted to rank all the Ice Age villains, and I forgot to, so it's actually still 23. Huh. Anyways, our first villain is Toto. He's particularly fairly friendly and helps with Diego's character arc, but as his own character, he's unmemorable. Still, I'll cut him some slack and give him C tier. The next Ice Age villains, do you even remember these two's names? I certainly don't. Personally, the Vultures are a more antagonistic force, but I'm not counting them because they're a force. Anyway, credit like the movie itself, F tier. Now, we got two villains for the third movie. Rudy is definitely the same quality as Soto, much more of an antagonistic force than a character, but hey, not every villain needs to be compelling. C tier. Now, you may be surprised to see Scrat out on this list, but Villains Wikipedia lists her as an official villain, although it does have a section for Roblox villains, but I digress. Anyway, Scrat is boring and bland, and the Scrat parts are easily the worst part of any Ice Age movies. She's getting a D only because she has some, keyword some, funny moments. And now, finally, Captain Gutt. Wait, no way! Gamers, we did it! Another passable villain! I'll be honest, Gutt was part of the reason I wanted to do this video in the first place. Something about this dumb little monkey, pirate monkey, just does it for me. I think my favorite part is how you could tell the writers looked at Soto and said, yeah, let's do him a better and a pirate. Almost everything about him is made to show how much the characters, notably Manny and Diego, have grown and changed. In the first movie, Manny was a loner, but now he fights for his family, and the same for Diego too. And Gutt, knowing he can't change them, uses it to his advantage. And truth, all Gutt cares about is himself. We see how much he mistreats the crew, because he wants to be big or feel big. He even slaves Hyroxes to build his ship. And when that backfires, he uses Manny's best strength against him. And in the end, his defeat was his worst. His ego. Like with his power, I do have one big issue with Gutt that holds me back. That is, I feel we could have done more with him. Like, what we got was good, great even, but I feel as if he could have affected Sid more, considering he affects, Manny and Diego. Still, that doesn't make me not want to give him a high A tier. Anyway, haven't seen Collision Course yet, so, let's move on. Okay, we're reaching the end here. While this list has been a huge pool of mediocrity, I'd say these last two villains are genuinely good. This is the last villain I'd say is fine. Now, Ian Hawke is definitely not a bad villain. He's pretty funny, memorable, and threatening. And how Chipwreck manages to tie up his character arc is pretty good. Definitely one of the better redemption arcs out there. However, compared to what other villains accomplish, he is pretty underwhelming, and he is just a guy in the films. When I think of his traits, all I can say is he's petty and he's goofy, which, again, great traits for a villain, but you need something more. A high C tier. Ooh, here we go. When it comes to the most iconic villains ever, Skeletor is bound to appear. Now, up until the 2026 live-action film, I've never seen a He-Man anything, but I was always aware of Skeletor. And whoo boy, the 2026 film does him justice. I want Skeletor to be in the crash course on how to write a villain. This guy is evil, and this movie makes sure you know that. He hurts his minions, destroys innocents, so on. And yet, they know how to take it light. His comedy doesn't detract from his evilness. In fact, it kind of shows how much he gets lost in the sauce. And do I even need to talk about his design? You know Skeletor's design is peak. I know Skeletor's design is peak. Heck, your grandma probably knows Skeletor's design is peak. Now, while I love him, he's unfortunately not S tier, because while his comedy can be funny, the He-Man movie can get pretty lost in its comedy. There's a scene where Skeletor is belittling at him, and at first it is funny, but it goes on for way too long. Also, kind of thought his death was kind of anticlimactic. He's still a really great villain, one worthy of a high A tier. Well, here we are. I saved the best villain for last. Out of all villains who deserve S tier in the film department, none of them deserve it more than Lord Business. I mean, come on, literally everything you want in a villain, Lord Business has it and more. The humor, check. The intimidation, check. The motive, check. I can't find a single bad thing wrong with him. I also have to give major kudos to Will Ferrell, who kills it as him. I think the thing I love most about Lord Business is how quippy he is. The Band-Aid. Heard it's super painful when you take it off. Special? What a bunch of hippy-dippy baloney. Please. It's just business. Lord Business. I also love the layers to his villainy. You can see he was a genuinely good and creative person, but since nobody paid attention to him, he began to hate. It's really believable. And of course, when we learn about the perils to the boy's dad and his scenes with them, it's so praised for a reason. And again, a pretty believable redemption. In conclusion, when it comes to Lord Business, I really got nothing negative to say. He's everything I wanted in a villain. Definitely an S tier. There we have it. A very different video, but I hope you all liked it anyway. I know I missed a lot, but I'm more than open for a part 2, with hopefully a better villain roster. But hey, you're gonna You're gonna need bad villains so the good can shine more. I'm definitely gonna do a one more one video villains though. Thanks for watching.